on the condition of his tongue. And here's what's shown at one of those scenes.
सोनी न्यूज में भी आना है, सोनी के हर फंक्शन में आना, हर प्रोग्राम में आना है, ताकि चंदू का जलवा हर जगह दिखे। जा रहा हूं आप फायदा उठा लेते हैं, कभी छत्तीस में आ जाते हैं सर, जैसे हमारे जितने भी पब्लिक
न दुनिया न उतबा न दोजख न जन्नत न सिद्धि न शक्ति न कश्फ व कदामत ये सब नक्शे बातिल पूरे दिल से रुखसत ये सब नक्शे बातिल
Jai Baba. So that's a short video on Pendu. It's a little shaky, but that's the best that I could access with uh, on the footage of Pendu. I mean, it's all over the place, but then that I thought represented Pendu's work life with Baba in a decent perspective. So with that said, let's all reminisce the life of Pendu with Baba and your experiences that you may have. But before we do that, we'll have Shailaja read a little bit of bio on Pendu. So would you like to take over, Shailaja? Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, welcome you all to this session where we're celebrating and remembering Pendu. So, as I read about him, you will notice that Pendu performed his tasks during his life with Baba in various roles. So, he was kind of like this all in one package, the perfect package for Baba. And he did all his work for Baba with 100% commitment and the way Baba would want one to do work for him. So this is Asfandiar Rustom Irani. That's his full name. He was born on 5th August 1903 in Poona, India. His parents were Rustom Irani and Piroja Dorab Irani. Baba used to call Rustom Irani Masaji as he was Baba's Masa. And Piroja was the sister of Shireen Mai, who was Baba's mother. Pendu's siblings were Naja, Mehra, and Gustad, and amongst these, Gustad died young. Pendu was educated at the St. Vincent's High School in Poona. And Pendu is our beloved's cousin from the maternal side. He was one of the four pillars of Meherabad along with Padri, Vishnu, and Adi Senior. Pendu had performed several roles in his service to Baba. Baba said of Pendu, he is service personified. The following incident helps us understand why Baba said this. During the Blue Bus tours, one day, Pleader could not hide his dejection and frustration, and in response, Baba called Pendu and asked Pendu in front of Pleader, "How long have you been with me?" "Since 1922, Pendu replied. "What do you want from me?" Baba said. "Nothing." Baba said, "Then why are you with me?" "To serve you, to see to your pleasure, and to do as you order." This was Pendu's reply. So you can see that Pendu was there just to serve Baba to the fullest. Pendu had an early connection with Baba. Pendu and his parents lived nearby Baba's house around the year 1916. The whole family had the great fortune of listening to Baba's recitation of Persian poems at 5 a.m. every morning. Aspandiar or Pendu and Naja loved cousin Merwan so deeply that once, as a boy, Aspandiar thought wistfully, how wonderful it would be if Merwan were Zoroaster. Merwan is so loving like him. He sings such beautiful prayers and his nature is so kind. I wish he were Zoroaster. In the year 1917, Pila Masi, as Pendu's mother was called, she passed away. Merwan consoled his uncle. This is Baba consoling his uncle. He said, "Masaji, don't worry. The responsibility of looking after Aspandiar and Naja is now with me. I will take care of them. I accept full responsibility of them. Don't worry about your children. They are mine now. After Pilamasi's death, Masaji moved from Poona to Ahmednagar and his children went to live with their aunt Daula Masi in Quetta, where Aspandiar was working in a restaurant owned by Gulmai's nephew, Rusi Jahangir Irani. Aspandiar's father Masaji was staying with the master at Manzile Meem, and his sister Naja had been sent by Baba to stay in Quetta as well. By 1923, Aspandiar joins Meher Baba at Manzile Meem in Bombay along with his father Masaji. During their stay in Happy Valley, Jal Bhai told Baba an amusing story about Aspandiar's japa, which is repetition of God's name in Manzile Meem. Every morning, Jal Bhai said, I used to watch Aspandiar sit for meditation. Due to the mosquitoes and his sleepiness, his body would sway back and forth. He moved like a pendulum. Baba laughed at Jalbai's description and decided it was an appropriate nickname for his cousin. Aspandiar was thus christened Pendulum, which was shortened to Pendu, and he was called by that name ever after. So this is how Aspandiar got his nickname Pendu. Life at Manzile Meem was intense. Aspandiar would keep watch from midnight to 4 a.m. Sometimes Aspandiar's eyes would droop since he had to work during the day and would have only a few hours to sleep. In the year 1928, Baba set up an ashram in Toka, and at that time there was no barber in that town. So Pendu was asked to shave and cut the hair of the residents. A structure made of bamboo matting was improvised with 2 mirrors, 2 chairs, and a bench for keeping newspapers and magazines. A man named Subedar volunteered to help Pendu. The opening of the shop was on Sunday, 8th of July 1928, when Pendu shaved Baba, his first customer. Phonograph records were played in the background and the atmosphere was filled with light-hearted fun. So here you see Pendu's role as a barber. Later, in the year 1932, Pendu, Gustaji and Jalbhai were in China for some time and for around 3 months, I believe. And then they were waiting there for Baba to call them to join him in America. In 1933, when Baba and party were in Portofino, Pendu had an opportunity to serve his master in a very unique way. Baba and a couple of Western Baba lovers were trapped along the steep cliffs in Portofino. Pendu then went to the top of the cliffs with a rope. He tied the rope to a tree. Baba began climbing down and Pendu followed him, dropping pebbles on Baba as they descended. The rope wasn't long enough to reach those stranded, so Pendu went further down and extended his arm to pull Herbert and Vivian up. Pendu then slid further down the side of the cliff and told Anita to grab his leg, which she did, and she too was rescued. So Vivian, Herbert, and Anita were all the Baba lovers in Portofino at that time, spending time with Baba. In the year 1936, discussions on creating a trust were ongoing, and on 6th August, Baba stressed the importance to his 4 pillars of Meherabad: Adi Senior, Pendu, Padri, and Vishnu, to carefully review the draft of the clauses of the proposed trust document. So here we see Pendu in the role of a trustee. On 15th August 1936, Meher Baba executed a trust deed in Nasik, creating the Meher Mandali Maintenance Trust. A board of trustees was appointed to see to the management of the Nasik, Rahuri, and Meherabad ashrams, and to ensure maintenance of individuals and families dependent upon Meher Baba. The idea in creating a trust was initially to free Baba from overseeing the details of the ashram's daily affairs so he could concentrate on his work with the mad and musts in Rahuri. But Baba still kept a close watch over all the activities and personally intervened when necessary. There were 8 original trustees: Adi Senior, Kaka, Padri, Pendu, Ramju, Sarosh, Vishnu, and Norina. Adi was the president of the board, Pendu and Norina vice presidents, and Vishnu the secretary. In the year 1938, major construction work on the second floor on the water tank and also the tomb shrine were undertaken. Pendu, Padri, and others were deeply involved in this work, and Pendu did not sleep for 2 weeks. Such was his commitment in serving Baba. During the year 1943, Baba had the following comments when a bus driven by Pendu accidentally ended up in a ditch. When news of the mishap reached Baba's ears, he remarked, Pendu has still much work to do, so I had to save him. Even if the bus would have overturned, Pendu would not have been killed. But why did he take the wheel in the first place? I have forbidden him to drive. Did he forget my order? That's what Baba said. Here was a lesson that Pendu learned regarding controlling anger. Pendu was the manager at Meherabad and handled all the money and kept accounts. On one occasion, Dattu showed Pendu's account book to Adi Senior, who complained to Baba about the accounts not being regular. So Baba sent for Pendu and criticized him, saying, Your accounts are not correct. They are perfect, Pendu protested. Every item in the account should be listed separately, Adi pointed out. Do banks have different coffers for their money? Asked Pendu. The money is kept together and accounts are written separately. Similarly, I too have kept the accounts separately. His reasoning upset Baba, who said, You are quite loyal and none can ever doubt your faith. But you don't know the first thing about accounting. What Adi says is true. Baba went on lambasting Pendu in front of everyone, and Pendu grew very angry. But he stood still, listening to what Baba was dictating. Afterwards, Dattu came out of his room and Pendu followed him. Catching hold of him, he said, You are the cause of all this trouble, and he gave him a hard slap. Baba overheard him and called them back. He severely scolded Pendu and ordered him to touch Dattu's feet. Moving on, this little section is about the new life and musts. Pendu had also helped find musts for Baba in the new life. He, along with Erich and other Mandali members, was the one who located the Manunash cave and prepared it in such a way that Baba could rest during his Manunash work in Hyderabad. Before traveling to America and Europe in 1952, Baba had sent Erich and Pendu on a speaking tour of different places in India, 2 different places in India, such as Andhra Pradesh in the south, Hamirpur in the north, Delhi, Allahabad, Nagpur, and Saoner in the central provinces and elsewhere. They had even carried Baba's message of love to Karachi in Pakistan. The gatherings were not open to the general public. but were meant only for Baba lovers and those genuinely interested in spirituality. Before addressing each meeting, Baba instructed Erich to repeat, "O God, Baba is sending us both, that's Erich and Pendu, in your name, and Baba, and we ask that your will be done in this work." Pendu was the supervisor of all the Sahavas arrangements and activities in Meherabad. Now we see him in a supervisor's role. This was very intense during those days, in the years of 1955, 1958, and more, all those years around that time. He was in a supervisor's role, making sure that all the guests that came were taken care of properly as per Baba's instructions. In the second major automobile accident in Satara on December 2nd, 1956, Pendu had serious injuries. Both of Pendu's legs were in plaster casts, and for several days he was unconscious. He had received a head injury as well that had affected his speech and was in terrible pain. Regarding the arrangements for the 1958 Sahavas, Baba said, "And I deferred giving final permission about arrangements for days. For 4 days ago, I visited Meherabad and Pendu was complaining and weeping before me like a child. Nothing was here 4 days ago. No tents, no bathing rooms, no latrines, no electricity. Besides these physical problems and shortage of time, Pendu would still fulfill his supervisory duties according to Baba's wishes." Pendu was also very fond of following cricket matches, listening to the radio to find out the score. When the test match was being played in England in the year 1959, Pendu came and stood outside Baba's bedroom. Bhau was on watch and Baba asked who was outside. On being told, he called Pendu. Joining his hands, Pendu entreated Baba, "Baba, please make India win the match." And at that time, Nari Contractor was the captain of the Indian cricket team. At this simple hearted request, Baba laughed and replied, "We shall see." "It is not a matter of seeing, Baba," Pendu persisted. "You have to make India win the game." And to this, Baba was much amused and asked Pendu to leave. Pendu went, but shortly was back with the same request. Baba gestured to him. "We shall see. Why are you so worried?" Baba heard Pendu's prayer. Despite an injury to his ribs, Nari Contractor, the then team captain of India, scored 84 runs for India's side and the team won. Pendu also kept night watch along with Bhau and Rano for Baba. And Pendu joined beloved Baba on 7th November 1986, and he was buried in Lower Meherabad. So as you could see from this reading, that Pendu served Baba in several different roles, and he was totally committed to Baba doing his work. So, with
Yeah.
that said, we open it up to the audience, and we request for you to raise your hand digitally to indicate you want to share about Pendu. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I mean, on various devices, you can use different keystrokes to invoke, I mean, to raise the hand. On a PC, you would do Alt and Y. On a Mac, you would do Option and Y. On a smartphone, you would look for more, three buttons or dots on the top right, and then upon clicking that, you would see raise hand icon. And on all versions, most of the new versions of the Zoom, you can click on reactions button. There itself, you'll see the raise hand button. So please, we encourage you to raise your hands and share your experiences with Pendu.
Or
Jai Baba.
stories,
Yeah,
or
anything that you want to share would be highly welcome. Jai Baba. So, anybody at this time? I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if yeah, there we have Jai Baba and Dr. Ann.
Jay Baba.
Go ahead.
Hello, Jai Baba, everyone. Yes, thank you first for this beautiful introduction and the movies. It was really special for me to see again these old pictures of Pendu, and especially doing the case paper for the patients coming to the dispensary. So when I knew Pendu was in the 1980s, and he was 80 something, and he was the eldest of the Meherabad Mandali at the time. And for me, as a young doctor, he looked very, very ancient. And, you know, he had been, his body had been totally shattered in the Satara accident. So he was walking at the time with a walker. He was not walking as well as what we see on this movie. That must be from earlier years. But he was always so easy to be around because he was always joking. You know, he would, for exercise, he would walk to the end of the veranda and back a couple of times a day, and he would say, "I'm going to Bombay for ice cream." That meant I'm going to the end of the veranda. And he was always also joking about his pains. He was full of pains in his legs and in his wrist, which was made it difficult for him to walk and hold that walker. So he would call his left leg his wife and his right leg his mother-in-law. And he would say, "Oh, today my wife is harassing me." Or he would say, "Oh, this afternoon my mother-in-law is really giving me so much trouble." And you know, his idea of a good joke, for example, was to send somebody to tell me that he was having a heart attack, just for the fun of seeing me come running and in a panic. And once I remember asking him, "But why are you joking all the time?" And he said, "It is a joke that keeps me alive." And you know, I was always impressed by his total dedication to Baba. We had a little routine when I was staying at Meherabad. Every morning I would come and greet him outside the window of his room. And he would always ask me if did I have a dream of Baba? And I never had dreamed with Baba in them. But very often he would dream of Baba. And I especially remember one dream that he shared with me. And he, excuse me, in the dream, Baba is walking alone on the road, and he looks very weak and, you know, walking with difficulty. And in the dream, Pendu just runs to Baba, you know, takes one of Baba's arm and put Baba's arm across his shoulders to help Baba walk. And I was really stunned that here is this old man who can hardly walk himself. And in his dreams, you know, he's still ready to run and give physical support to Baba. I thought the dream was just gave me a good insight into who Pendu was. And one, maybe other people want to talk. I don't want to be too long.
There are not many hands at this time. So Anne, Dr. Anne, if you can continue, that will be great.
Well, there's one more story. You know, Pendu was still officially in charge of Amatiti, I guess till the end of his life. I mean, of course, there were plenty of helpers, but he would be there in this antique wheelchair and Craig was with him. Anyway, I remember after the 3 days of Amatiti in Meherabad, he comes back to Meherabad, and you know, his legs are more swollen than usual. He's in more pain than usual, and I am sort of upset about the situation. And he told me, I don't know how to convey the way he told me that. He said, if Baba wants us to suffer, why should we mind? If Baba wants us to suffer, why should we mind? So, you know, there's the kind of moment with the mandali where I would just run and write this down because it was so deep. You know, it's somebody who is so close, who is Baba's cousin, and basically most of his life of service to Baba was you know, getting a harsher treatment than most mandali and you know, having his body shattered in the accident. And why should we mind? Jai Baba.
Wow, Dr. Anne, that is profound. You know, I mean, those words are indeed really profound. When Baba wants us to suffer, why should we mind? I mean, that's great understanding right there. Well, that's the reason why he could do all that he did for Baba. And he was there everywhere. I mean, in every activity. I mean, being the manager of all the activities in various ashrams Baba had, and and arranging all the programs. And most of the time there was hardly any money, and then there was no time as well. But he was, along with other people, was highly instrumental in getting things done beautifully, and Baba, I'm sure, was pleased. And I just recall one instance. You know, the other day somebody was mentioning in one of the programs where when Adi died in 1982, I think, and he said, well, he got his visa. I'm still waiting for my visa or something like that. So joining Baba is waiting for a visa or something like him. He used to, I believe, use such words. I just happened to hear somebody say that the other day. And what else? I mean, there was one more funny thing that happened. You know, remember Shailaja read about the construction on the water tank and Samadhi to be done in express time, in a very short time, by 25th of whatever year that was. And Baba would come and then say, oh, you have 2 weeks, you got to finish the whole thing. And I think in that particular conversation, he asked Baba, Baba, do me a favor, don't come till 25th. Because whenever Baba would come, he will add this, that, and then it made his work a little more cumbersome. So, so he jokes with Baba and says, Baba, please do me a favor, don't come till the 25th. So Baba says, all right, I agree, but I'll come on at 8 o'clock on 25th morning. So that was funny. Jai Baba. I'm looking for more hands and more people to share their experiences. Let's see. There we have Diana. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba to you all. I did not have very much experience with Pendu, but of course, whatever was there was quite memorable. I made a point in 1980 when I went to India to spend a lot of time with him. And I just have a few observations. We know he liked to joke and that he was so friendly to everyone, and it would be so interesting and heartbreaking also to see him joke around with people and then they would leave, and then his legs would be, I think, out on a little stool in front of him, and they just rub his hands down his legs and just wince in pain. And so that pain was there, I think, probably all the time, and he was always overriding it with his mood and with the joking. His hugs were very interesting because he was one of the Mandali that we hugged while he was sitting down, and often he would just sort of reach up, and a lot of women would and I would wear a scarf around my neck. He would sort of pull you down and then give you a hug. So we all got kind of choked by him. I visited him one day in the dispensary, and I sat next to him, and he was just so, he talked to me a lot, explaining how the dispensary was run and what he was doing, and about charging very, very small amount of money so that the dispensary would be, just to create, I think, a formality of the relationship between the patient and the dispensary. He showed me how that whenever we wrote letters to India, they would keep the envelopes and cut them in half and then send pills home with the patients inside that half envelope that had been folded over. Everything was used. He one day when I was sitting with him on the veranda, he expressed a concern about relationships, people in their personal relationships and things not working out well. And he just looked at everybody, and there was a certain expression on his face. And he asked me a personal question, and he wasn't pleased with the answer. And then he said something like, "Never mind." And he made this gesture, and it was a gesture of, I think, Baba just wiping things out for us. It was really beautiful. And then regarding, this is my last comment, regarding the construction work he did for Baba, there was one piece of a building that had to be done at the last minute, and he had to borrow materials from another building to complete that piece of the building. And again, he had been up for 24 hours or 3 days, I don't know. And he told me that Baba came to see his work, was pleased with him, and garlanded him. And he had a very happy face telling me that. Jai Baba.
Wow, beautiful, Diana. Great, experiences you could narrate. Very nice, very nice. And that's wonderful. That's how he was, right? I mean, always doing something for Baba all the time. And reusing the materials is not a new story in Baba's world, because he would often have things moved from the post office building to Upper Meherabad and do the construction there. And then even when he set up the ashram in Toka and Nasik, I mean, he would reuse material left and right, as we all know. So I mean, I could imagine all that work that went in, and so much behind the scenes. And great to see Pendu there all the time doing beautiful work along with Padri and everybody else. Beautiful. And let's see, anybody else? And we are not just limited to sharing personal experiences. I mean, I don't have any really directly with him. Of course, I probably got a hug here and there, but you can always narrate stories that you probably have read over the years and whatnot. So anything, everything is welcome about Pendu at this time. Jai Baba. Rosie Jackson, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everyone. Nice to see you. So I met Pendu in the early 80s when I first went to India. And the strongest memory I have, and probably the most emotional of many emotional experiences in India, was that one day I was in the Samadhi, and it was when Samadhi was not very busy in those days, and I was sitting on the floor in there on my own, and Pendu came in, and I was shocked to see him. I didn't know, obviously didn't know he was coming to take darshan, and he was on his own, and it took him an awful long time to kneel down. He was in such agony, and he did make a few expressions of pain as he was getting down, but he didn't like shortcut anything. He didn't just bow his head or anything. He, in great pain, put his hands on the stones and knelt down fully and took darshan fully. And I remember feeling I was witnessing this incredible surrender to Baba, this incredible humility and love. And as I say, it took him a long time to get down. It took him longer to get up again. And I was just so struck, well, by the privilege of seeing him and being there when that happened, and just by his total dedication and devotion and lack of complaint. And even though his body was broken, still wanting to give himself fully to his master. It was just so beautiful and moving and heartrending to see his pain. And I've never forgotten that. I didn't have much direct connection with him in terms of talking much. I would just see him at Meherabad and we'd say hello. But somehow I was allowed to witness that, taking darshan. I always found it very moving being with any of the Mandali when they took darshan in the Samadhi. It was quite a privilege. But that particular one was just, yeah, something I've never forgotten. So I wanted to share that. Jai Baba.
Wow, Rosie, that's beautiful. Yeah, such an intimate detail there. It's great people. I mean, obviously, all these wonderful Baba's Mandali. And, well, anybody else who has something they'd like to share?
There is also a comment in the chat box from Yasmin. She says, charges at the dispensary was rupees 1. Still is, I think, though the medicines could go up to 1,000 rupees. Dr. Ann can verify this. Yeah,
It's
back
very
in the
likely.
day.
I mean, it's a free dispensary, right? I mean, so anybody else?
Rosalie.
Yeah. Oh, Rosalie.
Jai Baba, Rosalie.
Jai Baba. I'm so happy to hear all these comments, and Dr. Ann. I knew I never wanted to miss any of these things about the Mandali because they were all so precious. And I remember first going in 76, and you knew Pendu, you knew where he sat, you knew he took a walk, but you know, it's sort of like you come to India as a child. You just come as a child, and you just so happy with the lovingness of the place. So it's very important to hear this, the really kind of the richness of the suffering. I do remember he was joking all the time, you know, and that he had a disability, but it's just so beautiful to hear about it. And also his beautiful dream that you shared, Dr. Ann, so precious, because he would, what I want to hear again from somebody, because when they mentioned we were going to have a celebration of Pendu, about the Pendu got to a point where he didn't feel he could please Baba. Baba was riding him you're doing this wrong, that wrong. And he finally says, I need to leave, Baba. And he struck him. He struck Pendu and he says, you fool. And he says, he's been with him ever since. So, and I know sometimes those strikes are a super grace. Yeah, and certainly if the avatar strikes you, it's very important. I felt an overall sensing of, you knew where every mandali was, and that they were indeed my spiritual family, because I was so happy there, and I can remember, I don't think Pendu ever, I think it was hard for him to get through the day. I don't think he ever came out later in the day, so I'm sure that was because of the pain and to be that cheerful through that pain for that many hours that he was there is such a heroic act, it's such a loving act. So I say I'm very grateful, and don't be shy to share whatever it is, because the importance of the lovingness of these mandali, is so awesome. It is so awesome. Jai Baba, thank you. Oh, I did want to say one thing, and I want to show you. One time, Pendu, he had a real fieriness about him, and I remember his skin was hot to the touch, like if to the side of his cheek. And one time he was standing up and I was, and he went to hug me, and he went kind of jiggling me around, and I don't know if you could see this, but he broke the chain of this, but a very tiny chain. And then it was so sweet, because he went from this fiery to, he was just very sorry that he broke the chain. Well, I never hooked the chain back up, but it's so funny because it has a little butterfly on it. It's very delicate. It's like something a child would wear. But it was worth it to see that other side of him, so super tender, as it was if you were around Padre too. He was such a big, one of the pillars, but I saw him take care of the person I was sharing a cabin with on Meherabad, and he was so gentle with her. He was just so, you didn't always see that side, but it was always so beautiful to see it. Anyway, Jai Baba, that's it.
Jai Baba,
Jai Baba.
Rosalie, that's wonderful, and you're right about that. I mean, any experience that anybody has with Mandali, if we can share, and that'll really add, a lot of, just gives us more time to think about Baba and their love for Baba. So with that said, let's see. Oh, we have one more here. Ken, Jai Baba, Ken.
Jai Baba. I don't have really too many stories about Pendu. I remember him, my first visit to Meherabad was in July of 1975. And because of the accident and his poor speech, a lot of people didn't spend time with him, but I seem to be able to understand him pretty easily. So I wish I could remember some of the things he had told me. Also, I was kind of wish Charles Haynes was here. He has a lovely story, as I remember it from his talks way back. He told the story of Pendu telling him the story of Baba's cabin alongside the Samadhi. And that's, the cabin has a very strong stone foundation. And that was when then Baba came and said, you have 10 days or whatever it was to finish. And so the rest was built as a tin shed. And when Baba came, after those days, he was so pleased that he garlanded Pendu. And then Charles was there in 1975 also. I have some pictures of him in Pendu when I was there. But as I remember it, then when Charles was visiting, Pendu then brought out the garland and gave it to Charles. And then Charles had it with him and showed it to us. And so we got to see the actual garland that Baba had garland and Pendu within that story. It's very, very touching. But as an example of, like you say, his incredible work that he did. There's one other little story I've never told. It's kind of it's not even a story really, but near the end of my visit there in 75, I was still fairly new to Baba, and I wasn't really aware of the, the background and what was going on at Meherabad with the mandali or anything. And one day on the veranda, Mani said something to me about, or commented that I would be a person that would maybe be useful to stay there or to spend more time there. And Pendu just gave her a look of like, no, you've got to be kidding or whatever, just this not a good idea look. I caught out of the corner of my eye, and she dropped it. And of course he was right. I was fairly newly married and didn't really have any special skills. So, I guess he was certainly one of the senior mandali, and, so that was my experience anyway. I don't know what was really going on necessarily, but it was just such a warm feeling around him, and remember him listening to the radio, to the sports scores in those days, and seemingly just sitting in his chair doing nothing much. It's when he started having those signs people would make, Slav Guru, or the one that was in your video with that one and a number of others. So thank you for doing this. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Ken, that's so touching, and I can feel that, the emotion, basically that just, as you recalled all those beautiful, intimate moments with Mandali. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. Thanks once again. And please, if you recall any more, please share more, and we would be eager to listen to everything that you can. Jai Baba. And now we have Mikal. Jai Baba.
Hi. Good morning and good evening and good afternoon to everyone. And it's really beautiful seeing you here and others, and Rosalie from England, and really wonderful. And I love the videos, and I love the photos, and I love the bio. It was really nice. And thank you. I have not met Pendu myself, but you said that any story that struck us is good enough. So the beautiful story of Pendu coming to Manzila Mim, what happened was Naja wrote to him that Baba is in Bombay, and that he has a group around him and working with some young people. And so he better come. And he took the advice of his sister, and he came to Bombay, and he came to Manzila Mim. And at that time, his father was the one watching the watchman on because no one was supposed to come into the building unless Baba allowed that. So this his father is seeing him for the first time, not hugging him, not nothing, not saying anything of recognition to him, just saying, what you want? He says, I want to be with Baba. So he goes in, he doesn't say anything. He goes into Baba and he says that Pendu is there and that he wants to join. And Baba says, okay, let him in. So he let him in. So this whole scene, is so different, how people are with the master, how they abide by his orders, and so it's really a whole scene. Whole scene is just like showing what kind of work and what kind of life it was to be with Baba. His father, is not his father. He's not his son. And the master is the younger one, and his sister is the one who's telling him to come, and he came and he stayed with Baba all these years, and so did Naja, and so did his father, and actually so did his mother, because his mother died when Baba just came to her the day before she died. She was suffering, and he probably released her. So this is just, such a tale of life with the master. Thank you, Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Mikal. Thanks for
Jai
sharing
Baba.
that wonderful story. Yeah. I read something, the same thing you just shared. It's so beautiful. I mean, there's so many things that are there in various books that about Pendu, but there is only so much we thought we could present given the time. But you're all there to help add richness to this sharing. So please go ahead and raise your hands, and we'll take it from there. Anybody else who has? I'm thinking of Gohar. Gohar, do you have anything else that you thought you might want to share? I mean, not trying to put you on the spot, but
No,
just
no, Jai Baba. I've been desperately trying to research where I heard, but I remember my father mentioning, Shailaja, when you were telling us about Erich and Pendu, Baba's telling them to go all around India to different places, and while he was in the West, that was in 1952, correct? Was that, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I
yeah.
believe
So they had come to Karachi, and there was an amusing story that I sort of remember, but I don't know all the details. I cannot, and I was trying to desperately research, see if I could find it in Lord Mayor while everybody was speaking. And I also looked in my father's book, but the details are not mentioned. But from what I can remember, at one day while they were in Karachi, my father and Adi Dubash, they were out taking them on a boat ride somewhere. And apparently something happened, and the boat collapsed and they both fell into the water. Do you recall this story? Is it mentioned anywhere? I cannot find it right now. But anyway, long story short, they both fell out of the water, but luckily the water was quite shallow, and so they were not harmed or hurt in any way. But it just turned out to be an amusing incident. So that's all I can recall of Erich and Pendu's visit, that my father mentioning many years ago. So. But I can't find it anywhere right now to give you the exact details. So that's it. But of course, I met Pendu Kaka many times on our visits to India, to Meherabad, and I just remember his warm hugs so sweetly. Yeah, so charming. So Jai Baba.
That's beautiful, Gohar.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, we'll get the details.
Yeah, I have to research the details. So
Yeah, yeah.
at some
No,
point.
but that's very interesting. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see. Rosalie has something else to share further. Jai Baba, Rosalie.
Jai Baba, what I wanted to say, just as far as coming to these very special sharings of the circle, really, is that everyone that has spoken so far, it's been so precious, no matter if they thought it was, but like Diana spoke about these different things she observed, and Rosie Jackson spoke about being present when they're taking Darshan at the Samadhi. I mean, like, yeah, that is just so precious. And that other thing, it's just you could see how we're all, Baba says, you and I are not we, but one, we're all reflecting those mandali, he has that mandali for a reason. I had a dream a long time ago and about Myrtle Beach, that we were in the dream, we were preparing to be in the circle. That was all that I remember. Baba doesn't give me Baba dreams, but we were preparing to be in the circle. And is this not preparing? Would we not want to be around him? Any Baba lover not want to be around Baba? And then also when Ken shared, so precious if you catch an interaction between the mandali, really special. Just you see a little into how it was. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful for these sharings, and I would encourage anybody to speak up, because all of us soul drops are part of the ocean. We have our reaction, and it's precious, to have these times to share. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Rosalie, thanks once again. That's beautiful. I mean, these are like lullabies. I mean, you just listen to them and you just keep your eyes open, transfixed, and then just absorb all that experience. And that's a beauty. I mean, that's what I think. And thanks for sharing that, Rosalie. And I thought we have Marsha. Jai Baba, Marsha.
I was looking through some books. I hadn't met Pendu, and I found this book, Letters from the Mandalay, and this is a letter from Adi, and it's on being raised to the heights and down to the dust. So I thought that kind of related to Pendu, being reprimanded by Baba. And so this is from 1979. I know what a trying ordeal you have experienced recently in your efforts to come closer to him. Yet at the same time, I wanted to tell you how fortunate you both are to receive this opportunity of effacement in the midst of your recent suffering. As I have often said, fortunate are those who Baba raises sky high, but more fortunate are those to whom he brings down to become dust at his feet. You have been given the opportunity to get closer to him in your recent experience. By being brave and relying on Baba as the sole source of your support and accepting the suffering you have gone through, he will draw you closer to him. There is a ghazal by Simab, which upon hearing some of the lines, Baba gave the poet liberation. Simab was out of the body at the time, and I would like to share some of the lines from this ghazal with you. Either peel off the layers of wounds of the heart and throw them out of sight, or accept the wonderful separation from the beloved as positive and indications of love. My dears, what else is there to do but accept every situation as given by him and allow yourself to be ground to the dust cheerfully? There's another ghazal that says, this life has been forced upon me, so why not keep happy? Welcome the gifts of effacement of the false self that offers even through it hurts, and coming to him, everything dear to us, our friends, our concept of the spiritual path, everything has to be taken away, leaving only him. Believe me, nothing that anyone has done to you has been done with malice. Each thing done by those who seem to have hurt you was done out of the sincerity of their perspective of how to serve Baba, no matter how limited that perspective might be. This doesn't mean that your feelings of being hurt are not genuine. It is just that we have to grant the sincerity of the motives of others. The nature of the spiritual path is that two people who disagree can both be right. You see, only he is right, and everyone else at best has only partial glimpses of the truth. You have been blessed because in the pain of what you have experienced, a new enthusiasm to reach him and fall only at his feet has been born in you. This is what is important. Don't dwell on the past. Don't be bitter about what has happened, but strive with all your heart to be his. Give yourself completely to him. He is responsible for your spiritual welfare. Don't be concerned about anything else. Remember him, and automatically you will forget himself. Adi. Thank you.
Hey, Baba Marsha, you have more, or that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that and finding it in a short time.
Jai Baba.
Thanks again, Marsha. Hey, Baba. And I thought we had Mikhail who wanted to share more, but Mikhail, did you have something else?
I'm trying to find it in Lord Meher, but what Goher said about the water and they're falling into the water reminded me of the story in Toka that I think that Pendu went out swimming with the boys in the river and he almost drowned there and Baba saved him. So he didn't know how to swim. So that is why Goher's story is so strong, because he again fell into the water. So yeah, Goher is saying yes. So I was trying to see if I can find it in Lord Meher, but I couldn't find it. So that is what I remembered. And that is what Goher's story brought to mind.
I'm going to look further. Might be in Irish's book. I don't know. Let me take a look and see.
But that was in Toka, when the Kremashram was moved to Toka.
Yeah.
And that's when he also was in water, I think. So
I think it's in the Francis Brabazon book of stories of the early life of Meher Baba. Mikhail, I think we're in that reading group together a couple months ago.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah.
A silent word. Okay.
Yeah, thank you all. That's beautiful. And I was thinking Dr. Anne may have a few more stories because he served in the dispensary helping everybody, and then you probably have also interacted with him much more frequently. So if you think of anything, just please share. Anybody else at this time? We are waiting for actually Meher Prasad, who said he has good stories, but I guess he needs a bit of time before he can start. And Rosalie, did you have your hand up again, or did I not bring it down last time? Oh, you have. Okay, please go ahead.
I also would say the mandali are such triggers of good things. They're triggers, they're love triggers. And of course, Baba's whole life and coming, they're triggers to that. They keep us active, that he really was human. He really was in that human body. So I in one of the groups, Lord Meher, I was so struck by Baba's childhood, because he had to be God in human form to be like this and as a child. This one time, I don't know his age exactly. He was like a preteen. He was in school, an all-boys school. And it was, he had such an amazing memory. If something was read, especially like something of Hafiz or anything inspiring, he could remember it word by word. Well, some of the teachers, this one teacher thought he was cheating. He says he cannot remember that, what it was. He says, so he caned him. You have to hold your hand out or whatever and hit you with this it's very painful. And then while he was caning Merwan Baba, he realized it was wrong to be caning him. And he goes, there is something different about you, Merwan, something special. Forgive me for having beaten you. Forgive me. And Baba's response is just so precious. What is there to forgive? It is all right. It was a mistake. It is forgotten and forgiven. And I tell you, since I've read this the other day, anytime I have any feeling of holding a feeling against someone I felt in everyday life, this comes to my mind like a help. It was a mistake because we're all making mistakes all the time. There's no more important mistake than another one. It's like the forgiveness is the thing that is important, the forgiveness. Yeah. Anyway, I was just going to say, so these sharings of these, these very beautiful souls triggers off any contact you've had with Baba. It just enriches it, like, wow. It's like I'm not into vaccinations, but it would be a booster shot, like now, just very precious. I bet Fred has something about Pendu. There's Fred Stanka. Speak up, Fred. Dear Baba.
Yeah, booster shots indeed. So
Yeah.
they really boost our resolve to be with Baba even more often. And such sacrifices, will really encourage us. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Fred has the story, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
Fred there.
Yeah.
Jai Baba, Fred.
Jay
Jai
Baba.
Baba. Jai Baba, everybody. I just was recalling my trips to India. First one was in 1971, and I would go subsequently every year, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, and I'd go around on Martiti time. And sometimes I'd go in September. I worked in the airline, so I was able to get these airline ticket passes at a discounted rate. And when I'd come to Meherabad, I would see Pendu, and I'd sometimes see Elcha Mistry, Jimmy Mistry, and we would be joking, and they would have their transistor radios listening to the cricket test matches, and we would be all on the veranda there. And then I would go in to see the women Mandali and hang out on the porch for a while, and then come back to Pendu. And we'd be able to leave Meherabad up until 6 p.m. And so it would allow a time for tea, which a loba would serve. And then we'd chat more with Pendu, and Pendu would hear my stories. I told this story, my boat story, sailboat, which I almost lost my life. And I related that to several people. The women Mandalay liked it too. And I would relate that to Pendu. And Pendu would always be so gracious when he see me. I'm 6'4", and he always look at me and addressed her with his hands like, oh my God, look at this giant coming next to me. And then when I would embrace him, he would be, of course, sitting down, and I would kiss his head, and his head was so tender and warm. And Pendu would say always, he would say that thing. He said, I have my passport, but I'm waiting for my visa so I could depart. And I can recall that so many times. But he was a person that always would have a sense of humor. And it was so remarkable to know that he was one of Baba's pillars of keeping things going with the Amartithi preparations and everything else. And I know Peter Nordine helped him a lot as a Westerner in those years too, of working and being adept in doing construction and so forth, things like that. But Pendu holds a dear place in my heart because hearing all the pain that was was divulged earlier in this conversation about him, I didn't realize it was that bad because he never gave me that impression. I knew that to hear him talk, sometimes you'd have to bend your ear close to him because he would speak softly. And sometimes the words wouldn't come out so clearly, but you felt his love. And Rosie Jackson's description of Darshan and Baba Samadhi, my God, we had that opportunity years ago to be able to sit in a Samadhi and no one around, and to have somebody like Pendu, a Mandali, come for Darshan while you're there. It must be a unforgettable memory. Anyway, that's what I can recall of my dear Pendu. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Fred, for that beautiful share of your memories with Pendu. And now we have Meher Prasad. Jai Baba, are you ready to share your stories?
Yes, Jai Baba, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, because I'm driving, so I don't know if my voice was gonna kind of break up or you have some background noise.
It's very clear as of now. So
Okay, great. All right. So I don't have any personal stories with Pendu, but I did meet him when I was young when he was in his wheelchair in Meherabad during Amar Tithi. One of the things that I remember Wendy Connor saying is that even short interactions with the mandali you remember because they're coming from the source of love. And that is so true. Even if I just say Jai Baba to Pendu or Mehra or any of them, the recollections of those memories are very vivid. And Darwin Shaw is another one that I just met once, but I still remember vividly the time that I said Jai Baba to him. But anyway, so that's kind of drifting away. So I have two stories that I remember from Pendu. One is the one that Rosalie kind of mentioned, but it got imprinted in my mind because this is a great example of how Baba trained the Mandali to go beyond praise and blame for everything that they did. That was really at the cornerstone of everything that he trained the Mandali for, to go beyond those two and just do work for him. This is during the time that if the free hospital was being set up, and one of the Dharmashala rooms, I think, was being used for operating the patients. So Pendu was asked to clean the room by Baba, and Pendu cleaned the room the first day, and then the next day Baba came and he noticed some dust on the table and berated him for not doing a good job. So Pendu made sure that he was doing being a lot more careful. And this time he really cleaned the entire room, made sure that there was nothing he could notice anywhere. And then Baba came the next day again, and then he pointed the dust at some corner of the room somewhere. And this time he really, basically took him to task, saying that, are you trying to kill my patients? I asked you to do this little job and you cannot do this properly. And that really upset Pendu, and he resolved himself to basically work through the night and clean every single thing that he could see. So he spent almost the whole night cleaning the whole room. And Baba comes the early morning, like at 5 a.m. He stands at the door and he puts his left hand on the door sill and then wipes through the door sill and shows the dust. And that really upsets Baba a lot. And he basically, just starts scolding Pendu left and right. And at this point, Pendu is completely exhausted and he just cannot take it anymore. And he just storms away from Meherabad and starts walking away. And that's when, what Rosalie was saying happened, that Baba goes after him and then just turns him around and gives him a very tight slap. And after that, nothing was said after that. And Pendu comes back, and that was the beginning of his lifetime service to Baba. So that story I could never forget, because it kind of shows how they were basically trained to go beyond any kind of praise or blame from Baba or anybody else. The second story is more of a humorous one. It doesn't directly involve Pendu, but somewhat of it starts with Pendu. And this happened, I think, in mid 50s, probably before the Satara accident, where Pendu writes a letter to Baba one day, and the letter arrives to Baba, and this really amused him quite a bit. I don't know if they were able to ever find this letter later on, but Meherabad Jesawala said that this letter was extremely funny for Baba. So the letter starts with, Dear Baba, I hope everybody is having a peaceful time in Meherabad. Over here, some weird things are happening. And he starts to narrate this episode. He says that Dr. Donkin is kind of behaving a little bit strangely. The other day, he started to talk to me in the morning while I was brushing my teeth, and he kept talking up during breakfast, and that continued during lunch. And I was thinking, when is he gonna stop? But he didn't stop. He kept on talking and talking and talking, and it went through the night, and after dinner, and even while sleeping, he was talking. And I was really getting exhausted with all his talking. He was talking non-stop from morning until night, until I slept. And the next day morning, he started to continue where he left off. And luckily, I saw Aloba coming that way. So I basically escaped by entrusting Dr. Donkin to Aloba, and Dr. Donkin latched onto Aloba, and he started to talk. And it just happened to be Dr. Donkin's ill fortune that he happened to mention the Shah of Iran when he was talking. And Aloba took over from there, and he started to say, oh, wait, I have something to tell you about the Shah of Iran. And he started to talk nonstop to Dr. Donkin, and Dr. Donkin's turn, it was now to see, oh, when is he gonna stop? So he tried to escape by going into the bathroom, into the toilet, but Aloba followed him to the toilet and started to speak from outside. And after some time, Dr. Donkin couldn't take it anymore. He went into his room and shut himself, and he didn't come outside for a very long time. I think several days is what Meherabad Jesawala said. And after hearing that, Baba really laughed a lot. And I don't know if they ever found that letter, but this was some amusing incident that I remember. Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Meher Prasad. The spiritual training Baba gave all these wonderful people is just tremendous. I mean, it's all about ego annihilation, I guess. And
Yes.
and this is a beautiful, humorous story after. Great, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for those shares.
Glad that you
Jai
remembered
Baba.
and you could share with us, and it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of wonderful stories like this. So, anybody else at this time to add to the richness of this sharing? Yeah, we're glad that we're all here trying to remember wonderful Pendu and associated stories, and his service is just tremendous. Can I have that? I mean, this thing that Shailaja shared earlier really exemplifies the Mandali's work. I just want to read that again. During the Blue Bus tours, one day, Cleader could not hide his dejection and frustration. I can believe all that happened there. And in response, Baba called Pendu and asked Pendu in front of Cleader How long have you been with me? Since 1922, Pendu replied. What do you want from me? Baba asked. Nothing, Pendu replied. Then why are you with me? Baba says. Well, Pendu replies, to serve you, to see your pleasure, and to do as you order. That is the theme of the mandali we often hear. And it's so beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah. And so that's the kind of life he led, and gave us beautiful stories so we can live them. And now we have Dr. Ann J. Baba.
Yeah, I remember a little story that Pendu told me. This takes place in the very early years in Meherabad in the 20 something, when they are settling in Meherabad. And at that time, the place was full of scorpions. And one of the people staying there told Pendu, if I could get 80 scorpions, then I could make a special remedy. So Pendu thought, well, I mean, if he can make a remedy for scorpion bite, that would be really a good thing. So Pendu took upon himself the task of finding 80 scorpions. And basically, he would show me, he twisted a newspaper, like a paper cone, and it seemed you just had to turn one stone and every other time you would find a scorpion. So there he is, picking up scorpions, putting them in that rolled up newspaper. And after a while, he realized that the bottom of the cone was not closed tightly and the scorpions had been going up his sleeve. And true to himself, he didn't panic. He said, I put down the cone of paper very carefully, then very slowly I removed my shirt, I shook it. He said, if you don't startle them, if you don't make sudden movements, they're not going to attack you. So anyway, he managed to gather 80 scorpions and he gave them to that man. But then Pendu was very interested. What now? What are you going to do? And the man says, well, I'm going to put 40 in one jar and 40 in another jar. And Pendu kept, asking for more details. And that fellow was sort of reluctant to give answers, but Pendu didn't let him go. So the man said the bigger scorpions are going to eat the smaller ones. And then, I'll be left with one scorpion. And Pendu kept insisting, and then what? And finally that man said, well, that scorpion, if you give him any metal to bite on, that metal will turn into gold. And Pendu was furious. He said, I've done all that thinking you're going to make a remedy for scorpion bite. We're here for Baba. We're not here to get gold. And he told me he poured spirit in the jars and he dispatched all the scorpions in this way. He had his sense of priorities. And one more thing I remember about Pendu is very often, he was Baba's cousin. And very often when he would tell stories, he would, without even trying, he would imitate Baba's gestures. And he had long fingers, and I always felt that his hands looked like Baba's hands.
Beautiful. What a precious story that is. I mean, I never heard this. Is it printed somewhere, Dr. Ann? I mean, is it in some book?
I don't think I've seen it printed anywhere. It's
Wow, what a
a
story. I mean,
story he told me. Yeah.
yeah, this forum especially for such beautiful stories. I mean, if you can't find them, we get to hear from you. So beautiful, and so precious. You're mentioning about the tender hands of Pendu. They look like Babas, and I guess like you said, they're cousins, and they share a lot of similarities. and this is one thing I just was thinking about. Pendu being Baba's cousin, I mean, when I speak to my cousins, I take a lot of things for granted and I keep shouting at them and things like that. But here is this great gentleman who would just simply do what Baba says, and that requires you to go beyond that relationship that you have and recognize that Baba is what he is, and that's the gift Baba gave him. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thanks again, Dr. Ryan.
My pleasure to remember this
Yeah,
time.
no, that was indeed precious. I should tell you that because these stories they just sometimes don't get into the books, and wonderful. And let's see, Prasad has a little more to add.
Yes, these are two stories that Jeff Wolverton related. So these are secondhand. So if they're not right, please correct me, because I don't like to narrate stories that are not 100% accurate from my memory. But I thought I'll share the part I remember. The first one is that apparently in 1926, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Apparently in 1926, there was a well being dug in Meherabad, and Pendu, one day when he went near the well, he felt like jumping into the big deep hole, and he talked to Baba about it, and he said, Baba, I felt like jumping into that, and I was scared. And Baba told him not to worry. He said, that's the power of gravity, but you will not die for another, you'll be alive for at least another 30 years. So Pendu thought that, he'll pass away in 1956. But of course, that was not the case. He got into an accident and got paralyzed. I think that is the part I remember from that story. The second one is after the accident, he was in a lot of pain. And one day, Baba was discussing an upcoming Savas. I think it may have been the 58 Savas with somebody. And Pendu was called, and he came into the room really limping and with a lot of pain. And he slowly came up the stairs and, in anguish, and he was crying and asked Baba, I'm so much in pain, and telling about the suffering that he was going through. And Baba scolded him, you always think of yourself, look at the suffering I go through, and told him to go away, and gave him some duty to do for the Savas. I think he asked him to actually manage the whole Savas arrangements at Meherabad. And then after he went, I don't remember who was with Baba, but Baba told that person, sometimes I have to be very cruel in order to be infinite, in order to give my infinite mercy or infinite grace, something like that. I hope I got those two right. Hey, Baba.
Yeah, you did, and I remember having come across this one while trying to put together something on Pendu. You're right, and Baba said I had to be infinitely cruel in order to be infinitely kind or something like that. I mean, yeah, but you got the gist. So beautiful. Thank you for those great stories. Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, let's see. We have Mikhail has something more to share. Jai Baba, Mikhail.
It's like Rosalie says, these stories of the Mandali, even if you don't meet them, they're so strong. They come into your heart and they show you what it was to live with Baba and to be so devoted and so with him and for his work and for us all. So by the way, Mayor Prasad, who was sitting there was Jim Mystery, and Jim Mystery was it was in Mandali Hall, and Jim Mystery was new to Baba, fairly new. So he was very surprised that Baba was so hard with Pendu, and that is why Baba explained what he explained later on when Pendu left and did all the work with all the pain that he went through. So what I remember is another story. It's not a story, it's actually his heart. When he was in Meherabad, he used to have good relationships with the people in Arangon and the children in Aragon, and they used to, and he used to help and develop them, and he sort of took over taking care of them, and actually Baba at one time said, "You're too proud of that you're doing such good work with these children and with these people, and it's not what you should be doing. You should be serving me, and you should be doing what I'm doing, and not having." Baba never wanted people to be too tied to other people in order to have favored those people instead of his work first. So that is what he was doing with Pendu too, but it showed also Pendu's heart of feeling so kind about the people there and taking care of them and wanting to help them. So it's both these sides, story of his heart and the story of how to serve Baba is something else. Baba kept everyone all the time focused on him and with a relationship with him and with the love of him. So thank you.
Beautiful, Mikhail. Thanks for sharing that. And to add to what Meher Prasad read, that he would live for another 30 years and so on. So Baba at one point said, when there was this incident that happened when a bunch of people were to be driven to the station to go somewhere. I don't exactly recall, and there was shortage of people who could drive buses, and they were waiting for somebody who was supposed to come and drive the bus, and then this man would not turn up. And then Pendu at that point said, "Okay, let me do the driving," and he would do that. This happened in 1943, and I think she read this, but I thought I'll just share it again. And then Pendu apparently was forbidden to drive buses and things like that by Baba, but I guess he sees the need of the time, and then he he actually takes upon this act of driving, and then he does that, and then the bus ends up in a ditch, and that's when Baba hears this, and his comments are beautiful. Baba's comments. Baba says, "Pendu still has much work to do, so I had to save him. Even if the bus would have overturned, Pendu would not have been killed." So, so that's how Baba does his work, to take care of people and get things to so that they can help him. I mean, well, participate in his universal work. So that's a beauty, yeah. And now we have Martha. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Martha.
Jai Baba, Sailaja, and Prakash. I just want to thank everyone that has shared a story, because I realized that the Mandali, in their death, gone, they still remind us of Baba's love, and they still touch all of us. And there's so many things that I learned today that I never knew not just about Pendu, but just about Baba. And the story that Dr. Ann shared, if Baba wants us to suffer, why should we mind? Oh my God, that is just, it just takes my breath away. Thank you, Dr. Ann, for sharing that. All of you have shared pearls for me, and I just want to thank you all, because together, like Rosalie says, together, you know, we bring Baba in the forefront, and we share stories and our ideas and feelings, and to me it's priceless. And I just want to thank you all for being my Baba family and sharing all these intimate things about Pendu and Baba. And Sailaja and Prakash, you've done a beautiful, beautiful job in facilitating this and coaxing all of us to bring our little tidbits. And thank you so much for doing this. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. That's true, Martha. I mean, listening about, Mandali is so special, directly from the people, actually. I mean, we can read books, but sometimes they sink in much more when people share from their heart, and that's exactly what happens here. And you are definitely echoing all our thoughts here. So beautiful. Thank you. And it's been just wonderful. That's all I can say. And thanks, everybody. Unless there is more to add and more to add to the stories that you may have, we may plan to just wind it up today. So please, there is somebody. Dr. Ann, Jai Baba Ann.
It's really just a detail, and I don't think anybody cares, but we would celebrate Pendu's birthday on September 5th. The date that is on his tombstone is not correct. So just for the record, he was born on September 5th. But thank you for that wonderful opportunity to be together and remember him.
Yeah, no, that's a great detail. I mean, we all got it wrong. I mean, because we are swiping information from various websites, and then if the mistake creeps in somewhere, and then we just keep carrying it. And thanks for correcting that. And I think I'll make that change in. So it's September 5th, you're saying, right?
5th, yeah.
September 5th,
1903.
1903. So
Yeah.
please, that stands corrected, and we are sorry for not making enough efforts to verify that. And thanks, Dr. Ann, for bringing that up. So yeah, no, beautiful, beautiful. And with that said, I guess we probably are done for today. And I'm sure there is more, and I'm sure more will come to your mind as time goes by. But we have a lot of such opportunities to share more later. So at this time,
Prakash, do you want me to read a quote before we end?
Please.
I read this in one of the Artis or Effort and Grace, I don't remember, but really nice discourse from Baba, from discourses. So Baba says, when the time is right, the advancement of a person towards self-knowledge comes about as naturally as the physical body of the child grows into the full-fledged form. The growth of the physical body is worked out by the operation of natural laws, whereas the progress of the aspirant towards self-knowledge is worked out by the operation of the spiritual laws pertaining to the transformation and emancipation of consciousness. The physical body of the child grows very gradually and almost imperceptibly, and the same is true of the spiritual progress of the person who has once entered the path. The child does not know how its physical body grows. The aspirant also is in the same way often oblivious of the law according to which he makes headway towards the destination of his spiritual progress. The aspirant is generally conscious only of the manner in which he has been responding to the diverse situations in life, but he is rarely conscious of the manner in which he makes progress towards self-knowledge. But without consciously knowing it, the aspirant is gradually arriving at self-knowledge by traversing the inner path through his joys and sorrows, his happiness and suffering, his successes and failures, his efforts and rest, and through his moments of clear perception and harmonized will, as well as through the moments of confusion and conflict. That's from Discourses, Volume 2, page 37. Jai Baba.
That is profound. Anything from Baba is profound. This is beautiful what you just shared. You know, I mean, I just recall he takes us blindfolded, and hopefully we are blindfolded and moving in the right direction. So thank you so much. And I mean, you guys, I mean, a lot of like Dr. Ann and all of you do such great work for Baba. And I'm just pleased to be with you all, listening to all these wonderful things. I keep saying all this time, I just want to be with people like you all who have these beautiful things to share. And having said that, we want Rosalie to say what she has. Jai Baba.
You know, I was thinking of Dr. Ann, your story about the scorpions. And I thought that was all of the mandali. They were into essence of the gold. You know, the true gold is pure focus on God. It's just the focus. And they all had that in their way, that focus, you know, and that was their whole life. So it's such a gift, you know. Here we were with them, whatever, taking tea with them. And it's just like that impression of these lovers of God, just focused on God. It's just so, I think of the joy of it. Like there's a line actually in the mystical language during the Blue Bus period. It says, "Love this game and I, see me in it, pure joy." And it always makes me laugh because it's like for the grace of, like, say myself going all that way and to be with these pure, beautiful people focused on Baba was such an incredible gift. It's like the gift that goes on giving, because and when we're sharing, as Erich was saying, that's what's going to stop it from getting into a religion, because we've all seen the real McCoys, you know, and it's like when children remember something, they remember it really deeply. You can't take that away. Like, that can't be taken away from us now. You know, Baba gave us that deep gift because we were, as children, coming over there to these old souls, totally focused on Baba. I mean, just such a precious gift, just like, but it's just beyond belief. I had a acupuncture treatment by Jacko Caraco, who's one of the first Westerners to serve Baba, and he would leave me under the needles a long time, and sometimes he'd let me play Kawali music when I was getting the treatment, and you know, it's like, and I had this experience of going to India, riding on the white horse, riding with Baba to India, and meeting these beautiful souls, and they're like flowers that keep blossoming within you. You know, it's just blossoming, you know, it's like, just, and it was like this, just a beautiful experience of the seeds are opening, the flowers are blossoming, and we don't know what we'll have to experience as Baba brings us into the new humanity, because the world is pretty well in confusion and chaos now. So what he's given us is it's getting more precious by the minute, just I say Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Wow, Rosalie, I would like to get that acupuncture treatment and experience what you went through, flying on the white horse, and God, I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And before we close, I just remembered one funny thing, the innocence of Mandali and living in a now. There was once, I mean, I cannot narrate the story in proper detail, but this is the gist. And once C.D. Deshmukh and a bunch of them were going along, I think probably in Aurangam, and then Deshmukh observes that people they have this cow dung cakes on the walls, and he pipes in saying, how did the cow go there and do it? That, and he's a PhD and everything, and I know he's not just trying to fake and everything. That's the innocence. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And he says, how did the cow go and do that there on the wall?
Yeah, the cow dung cakes in
Yeah.
India, they use the dung of the cow to
And then take that and plow it
and
on the
it's
wall.
used as fuel in the
So it was so fun. I mean, I
burning.
just wanted to narrate this to see how life can be so simple. I mean,
And
it's just
it's
living
sheer
in
innocence
yeah.
on their part.
Wow. Anyway, so thanks again. Thanks everybody for all these precious stories and out of all that, the love that you have for Baba,
Brought
that you brought forth in sharing whatever you shared. And with that said,
We'll say
let's all say
Avatar
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai 3 times. You all can please unmute yourselves. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Wow, wonderful. Thanks again.
Thank you for lovely hosting. It was so beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Prakash and
Wonderful.
Shailaja. You did a wonderful job. Thank
no,
you.
thanks
Jai
everybody.
Baba.
I mean,
Thank
So
you.
gentle, such a gentle energy. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Sailaja. Thank
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks
it's
everybody.
it's Baba through us. Baba helping us.
Thank you, Baba.
Through us all.
Thank you, Baba.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah, Baba.
Thank you,
Lovely.
Dheram.